Good Friday morning, friends. Welcome to this week's episode of the Finding God in the Dark podcast. My name is Don,
And my name is Jonathan.
and today we are talking about the 1974 Francis Ford Coppola directed film, The Godfather Part II. Um, it is from the book. Was Part Two based on a book? Or
It's
Part One
loosely
was.
based on the rest of the book. Yeah, I believe.
Okay.
Both films are loosely based on the book.
Okay.
From my
And
understanding, the book is nowhere near as good as the movies are.
Well, the movies are classics for a reason. There's a reason that when people talk about the great American epic, they talk about Godfather One, Godfather Two. Not so much three, but the first two, definitely. It stars wow, Diane Keaton, Al Pacino, Robert Duvall, Robert De Niro, Bruno Kirby.
Ton of
Uh,
people.
it is a huge ensemble cast. I think one of the really interesting parts of this film is that it does a flashback, flash forward thing with you see Michael in the current in the
Yeah,
70s establishing the family's influence in Las Vegas and possibly Cuba and other places, Miami, and then it intersperses that with scenes of Vito, played by Robert De Niro here, who was played by Marlon Brando in the first film,
yeah.
establishing the family business in New York City in the 20s, I guess.
Hmm.
So, um, obviously, a mob crime type of film.
Hmm.
Where do you want to start, John?
Um, I don't know. I think it's to me. Whenever I watch it, I'm blown away by what I would argue is one of the greatest acting performances I've ever seen by Al Pacino, by anybody. Um,
I can't argue with that.
the
He's
the
phenomenal.
the way he transforms through the film, the way he can shift from deeply hurt and concerned to rage in in 5 seconds is amazing.
And not just that, but the way there's this cool, calm demeanor when his character is doing some of the vilest things you can imagine.
Yeah,
Um, you know, yeah, he's outstanding in this film. I almost didn't recognize De Niro as Vito.
yeah,
Because I guess, we're used to seeing an older De Niro. He's much younger, obviously, in this film, and slimmer as well. And so, like when it first came on the screen, it's like that's De Niro,
yeah,
But I thought he was really because all of his scenes, the almost all of his dialogue is in Italian.
yeah,
Most of the dialogue in the 1920s New York setting is in Italian because it
yeah,
is an immigrant neighborhood, Little Italy
yes, yeah,
in New York City.
yeah.
Um, I think on top of, and Evan and I talked about this when we talked about Godfather One. On top of the superb acting, I think the cinematography and the set decoration, and
Gordon Willis, yeah,
it's so well done.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
Gordon Willis is a legend because of this, in large part. Not he. I mean, he did some amazing other work, but in large part because of this movie, because he shoots, especially the lake house scenes, in such kind of backlit. It feels like a funeral home, and it's supposed
yeah,
to feel like a funeral home.
yeah, yeah, and you mentioned that a little in the themes of this idea of light and dark.
Yeah,
Um, that's definitely played out in the cinematography. When it is dimmer in the scene, it is something that is untoward going
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Yeah, kind of playing into the very idea of um, secrets die in the light.
Yeah.
You know what I
I,
mean?
I think, I mean, I know I don't want to do too much of this because it's not, we're not talking about both movies, but really, to me, this movie's in conversation with the first.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
to me, you can watch the first movie and you can kind of feel. I think the first movie is more people gravitate more toward the first movie because I would argue this is a better movie and a harder movie to pull off because of all the moving pieces.
Hmm.
But the first movie ends in a way that you can kind of feel on an up note. Like you can feel like um, that the good guys, like you kind of root for Michael, you root for this family, even though they're anti-heroes, and
Hmm.
they kind of come out on top. And everybody that everything, one person I heard talk about these movies once is in the movies, Vito never does anything that breaks the ethics of the movie. So he never does anything wrong.
Right.
He does things that we would in a vacuum say are wrong, but in terms of the ethics of the movie and the world, he does nothing wrong.
Right.
And in the first movie, you kind of understand everything that happens. Maybe you wish they wouldn't have been as violent or whatever, but you can kind of get it. He's protecting his family. Michael's protecting his revenge for his father. He's protecting himself because they're going to kill him. But in the second movie, Michael falls off a cliff. By the end of the second movie, you can't justify his actions.
No.
You're kind of ashamed that you were rooting for him in the first movie because he just becomes kind of the embodiment of evil.
Yeah. Yeah, there's for certain there's a consistent ethic in the
Yeah,
first film.
yeah,
And you're right, you kind of rooting for, they're bad guys, but you're still kind of rooting for the family to win. And there's that whole scene where Michael takes out all of their enemies,
yeah,
while he's at his son's, I think it was his son's christening.
yeah.
Um and then but you're like,
Oh,
yeah, but that's what.
Connie's son's christening. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. But you're kind of like, in your head, you kind of, yeah, but that's what he has to do. Like there's
yeah,
this consistent, if you're going to be the
yeah,
man, this is what you had to do.
yeah,
But you're right. There's this whole character arc with Michael in this
yeah,
film
yeah,
that is a definitely a downfall. It's like the film's a tragedy. It's actually on
yeah.
IMDb. It's listed as a tragedy.
Yeah.
So,
It's
among other things,
it
but
kind of to me it kind of plays with a lot of themes that you'll see in like Macbeth. This idea of the king that conquers, that gets it all, and then loses everything he really wanted.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
which is you, I mean, you see that with Michael, and that discussion he has with his mother,
yeah,
right? Like, how can I'm going to lose my family,
and she's like,
which
"How can
is
you can't lose your family?" And he's like,
can't.
"Times are changing." Yeah, it's a great line.
Yeah, it really is.
Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of themes that popped out at me this time. Maybe
Hmm.
some of it's the context we're in, but like for me, a big thing that kind of popped up is what is the American dream? What does it mean to accomplish the American dream or achieve the American dream? And then,
Mm,
kind of in relationship with this, kind of a dialogue about immigrants and Americans. Like, I find it fascinating that in this movie, they choose to, um, the characters choose to pronounce his last name different ways, you know,
uh-huh.
and there's clearly sometimes people do it as disrespect,
Right.
and clearly there's sometimes it's about like I don't know and I don't care to know how you pronounce your name correctly, and it's this idea of um, how do
Did you
immigrants become
did you catch
American?
when
Yeah,
you talk about name pronunciations, did you catch in the very beginning? So in the very beginning,
yeah,
like there's an establishing shot of Vito as a child and what
yeah,
happened, how he came to
yeah,
America. But then with the
yeah,
first communion
yeah,
of Michael's son,
yeah,
and then this senator gets up to say something and he calls him Michael Vito Corleone. And I
yeah,
think,
yeah,
wow, you didn't even try, dude.
yeah. And that shot is to one of the things I love about um, um, Francis Ford Coppola is a lot of different actors and writers would have had a character talk about how things are changed, how we've lost our connection to the old world and our history and our culture.
Mhm.
He just shows you the wedding scene in the first movie where everybody's kind of celebrating and happy and kind of they're living into what it means to be Italian, right?
Mhm.
And in the celebration of Michael's son's Anthony's first communion, and none of the musicians know how to play anything Italian. Nobody who's from the old world or even New York feels comfortable or
Yeah.
welcome, and
Yep.
it's communicating the fact that they are trying so desperately to assimilate that they've lost who they are.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and there's obviously, I mean, there's a whole theme that runs through this about identity,
yeah,
about, what does it mean to be American? What does it mean to be an immigrant American or a
yeah,
Native American? There's a whole side angle with with what's his name, Mort Roth,
yeah,
who's Jewish,
yeah. Hyman
and
Roth, yeah.
Hyman Roth, yeah. And and then the whole thing, there's like this again, this sort of side quest in Cuba, and that looks like was the height of the Cuban Revolution.
Yeah,
Um,
that
so
was. I mean,
Castro take over, right?
yeah. The this movie overlays their interactions in Cuba with 59-60 when Castro takes over.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So there's this giant arc right through the whole film about identity, which is interesting.
yeah.
Um, Theologically,
Yes.
I I am enthralled with both of these films
Yes.
in how they intertwine the family business with their Catholic faith.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily an indictment of the church.
Yeah.
It could be, and maybe that's what Coppola is going for. I don't know,
Well,
but
he definitely plays more with that in Godfather 3.
yeah,
Um,
which
yeah.
we could look at next if we want, but I don't think it's been a long time since I saw that one.
Yeah, I mean the bad thing about I the bad thing about Godfather 3, really quickly, I don't want to do too much of a tangent, but this movie ends perfectly. Like for this brings the story of Michael Corleone to kind of where you want it. You want it to kind of be like he's lost everything and he's still kind of trying to figure out what happened and how he got here.
Yeah.
But what's bad about Godfather 3 is they just had some really like Coppola was desperate for money, that's why he did it. He couldn't get the studio to pay God, who plays Tom Higgins? Um,
Duvall,
Duvall.
Robert Duvall.
He couldn't get the studio to pay Duvall um, more money because Duvall was like, I'm getting paid 6 times less um, than Pacino. I'm okay with a little less, but not 6 times less.
Right.
And then unfortunately, Winona Ryder was going to play Michael's daughter, and she had a nervous breakdown, and so he put his own daughter in the movie. And she's a wonderful director, but she couldn't act her way out of a bag. And so I would be curious to see the movie he envisioned, but to me the what's sad about this is that the movie ends where it should end. Like the movie ends with, you know, Michael alone because that's kind of the reality here of and it's interesting to me what's interesting to have a conversation about on some level is what's the difference between Vito and Michael? They both are extremely gifted leaders. They
Uh-huh.
both are extremely kind of ruthless in their attack on what they need or what they want. You know, they're both godfathers in the sense that you would, you know, imagine a godfather to be, but yet Vito dies surrounded by his family and beloved, and Michael, you know, Michael's alone in the
Yeah,
end.
Michael ends up, at least at the end of this film, ends up
Yeah,
alone. And it's interesting because it's almost as if Michael is desperately trying to keep his family together, and yet in all of his efforts are pushing them away.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because now there is the question, is that because times have changed, or is it something that Michael has done differently from Vito, from his father.
I would argue that the difference is, even though I would, of course, quibble with the ethics of Vito Corleone, I'm not going to say I would, but
Well, like I said, not ethic. I'm not saying he was ethical, but he
yeah,
had a consistent ethic,
yes. To
right?
me,
This was,
to
I'm
me,
taking care of my family and my
yeah,
family
to
business,
me, the difference is at the core of Vito is a desire to make a world for his family, and at the core of Michael is really an attempt to have more power.
Ambition. Yeah, I was going to use the word ambition. Yeah.
Yeah, but his unwillingness to not be the only person in the world with power is what really kills it. Like I think about the scene from the first movie where Vito puts an end to the war between the five families by basically saying, "I'm going to call a truce. If you call a truce, if you don't mess with my family, I'm this is going to end."
Mhm.
And you get a sense that Michael wouldn't do that.
Right.
You know,
Well,
like,
he certainly doesn't do that. I mean,
well, yeah, like, well, even I think what's so powerful in this is Tom really hits it the best speech really directly, but I would argue you could find it different places. There's a bunch of times toward the end of the movie where people are like, essentially, they're saying or they're acting like, Michael, you've won. Everybody else can't hurt you anymore. You don't have to destroy them. You know, and
and yet he still does.
Tom brings that to a verbal thing where he's like, Roth literally is penniless. He's bouncing around the world. No one will take him. When he gets back here, the United States are going to arrest him. You don't need to send somebody to kill him. He's going to live the rest of his life in prison. You've won. And yet Michael has to kill him. You know,
Mhm.
Michael has to do that. And the same thing with Fredo is, I feel like Connie. I feel like even the guy who ultimately kills Fredo at that funeral scene where Fredo runs into Al Neri, who will ultimately kill him, and Al Neri knows he'll probably have to kill him, and he looks at him and he can't. You can just see this kind of sympathy and like he doesn't want to do it, and then you see Michael come and fake this kind of "I forgive you," wrap his arms up in his, you know, his brother, and at the same time he stares down Al like this is still on, and
Yeah.
Al like looks down at the ground like almost like what are you doing? Like, like why are you doing this? Like,
Yeah. And again, like I said, pulling him in close and pushing him away at the same time.
yeah,
Like, and that's a, you're right, that's a powerful scene, right?
yeah,
Here he is embracing Fredo, I forgive you. And then he's looking at the guy going, you know what has to be done now.
yeah.
Like I got him here, you take him out.
Well, it's almost like, I mean, Kay puts it when they have their that whole brilliant scene around when Kay says, you know, I aborted the child because I didn't want to have another one of your children around, and I
Mhm.
don't want to be with you, you know. And before she does that reveal, Michael says, you know, I love you. I'm not going to let you go. And she's like, it doesn't work that way.
Is
And I
that,
think
yeah, is that love or obsession? Yeah.
I think that's part of it is Michael wants family, but he wants family on his own terms. He wants the family he wants instead of he just wants these people around him.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm wondering if the word might be manipulate, right?
Yeah,
He wants family that he can control,
yeah,
family that he can manipulate. And ultimately, is that not Michael's downfall? Is that he feels he has to control
everything.
everything,
Yeah,
everything that influences his life in any minute little way, he has to control it.
yeah. And you know, you get it with like Frankie Five Angels. He has switched his testimony. He would never be believed now if he switched it back and said
Hmm.
Michael was the boss, right? And yet Michael sends Tom to tell him that if you got to kill yourself, you know, and it's
Yeah.
like, no, he doesn't. Like he's never going to cause you any more danger because all you'd have to do is go, well, he already flipped his testimony, so why would we believe him now?
Yeah. I mean, he's um, oh, what's the word? Right. He's not believable. Right. He is basically ineffective. He's never going to challenge you ever again.
Yeah.
And yet still you got to take him out.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're not controlling him. You didn't control him, you
Yeah.
know? I think, and that goes back to also that, what was it, senator or whatever that showed up that was at the party in the
Senator
beginning,
Geary, yeah.
you
Well,
know?
that's where that's the scene I think you realize that Michael is no longer someone you can root for, is when it's revealed that Senator Neary didn't kill the prostitute he was with. Al, or Senator, or not Senator Neary, Senator Geary didn't kill the prostitute. Al killed the prostitute.
Hmm.
And so Michael sent this person to kill an innocent person just so that he could blackmail and have control over this senator.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And and because the senator mispronounced his son's name.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know, maybe. So um yeah, it's a 3.5 hour movie.
Yeah.
Um, and there is I mean, look, we're talking so much right now about Michael.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't even gotten into the 1920s New York City
Yeah.
storyline with Vito and him establishing the family. And the stuff like there is it's almost a parallel scene
Hmm.
from Godfather 1 where Vito kills Don Fanucci
Yeah.
during this religious street celebration, you
Yep.
know, and then just goes home to his family and,
Yep.
picks up his son and
Yep.
like, wow, and it's almost like if you were arguing from Godfather 1 that Vito had this um, consistent ethic,
Yeah.
and then you see him just kill this Don Fanucci
Yeah.
because he can, well, and then make it look like a suicide.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how you suicide yourself with three different shots, but okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
I took that more. He wanted to make sure he was dead, but yeah,
okay, could be.
but yeah, I mean, one of the things we have to talk about because we're pastors and this is part of what we do in this thing is um, how in both movies, really, and even in the third, sin is covered over by religion. Like people attempt to cover their sin with kind of the accoutrements of religion,
Yeah,
um, without really embracing the heart of religion, right? Like
yeah.
the great one of the greatest scenes in all movie histories from the first movie, where Michael is having all these people killed, and he's literally doing
Taking
the
communion.
vows for the godfather of a baptized child, right?
Hmm.
You know,
And
like
taking communion. Yeah.
literally. I don't know if I mean they're not exactly the words we say, but it's pretty close to the words we say. Like it's
Hmm.
like, "Will you renounce the spiritual forces of wickedness?" I do. Like like
Too, and then
you know.
yes.
And I I'm fascinated by kind of how people can buy into this idea that I go to church, but I can do whatever I want. Like it covers me,
Yeah.
or I give to the church so I can do whatever I want, or I've been baptized, or I go and receive communion so I can do whatever I want.
I've used this. So folks who have followed me or have been in my churches will have heard this before. But I've used this primarily in Emmaus talks. Um, and that is going to church, just going to church makes you a Christian about as much as going to McDonald's makes you a hamburger,
Yeah,
or sitting in your garage makes you a car.
yeah,
That's not how it works. It's not like the lady in the commercial. That's not how any of this works. you know, it is so much more than just showing up. And you're right. And at least these two films, not, like I said, I'm not even sure I've ever seen Part III. I may have a long time ago, but at least in these two films, right? The whole trappings of religion are almost this cover, this dodge
Yeah.
for what's going on elsewhere under the orders of those who are, you know, being religious at the moment, you know?
Well, it's powerful to me. Like it's powerful, and I they may have not. I'm assuming they knew this because they edited it correctly, and and these are amazing editors and amazing production people. So I'm guessing they understood. But Al waits to shoot um, Fredo until he waits till the end of the Hail Mary,
Yeah.
almost like I'm respecting your praying now, and it's like, but you're about to literally shoot him dead,
Right.
but somehow he needed to finish the Hail Mary. It's like, well, how about you don't shoot him?
He's just,
Like,
well, now, wait a minute. He's just following orders.
yes, yeah.
And we know that if you just follow orders, everything will be okay, right?
Well, and it's this. Well, I think to me, what's powerful about that scene is how, if you don't know how the Hail Mary ends, it ends with pray for us now, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death.
Right.
And it, to me, it was almost a way of the filmmaker saying, Fredo really repented. Like he really wanted forgiveness for what he had done to Michael. And yet Michael refused that forgiveness.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the exclamation point on that. Like Fredo really wanted repentance. He wanted forgiveness for his mistakes, and Michael refused to give it to him. So it's almost like that. It's almost. I'm going to go a little off track here, but I think it kind of makes the point. It's almost like the criminals on either side of Jesus. One asks for forgiveness, one won't.
Yeah.
You know that
Yeah.
idea. You know,
That's not a swerve. That's not a huge swerve really at all. Yeah. It's interesting that um Michael and I think even to an extent Vito, okay, so either Godfather,
yeah.
um, Catholic practicing Christian, and yet does not display Michael more so does not display forgiveness
No,
in any way, shape, or in fact, he carries a grudge like it's his lunchbox and nobody ever take it away from him. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I mean, to me, he's the most. To me, that's the kind of person I worry about and pray for the most, are the people that can't forgive.
Yeah.
Not that you magically get hurt and then you magically can forgive the next day. I'm not saying that, but the people that like go like, I'm never gonna forgive, like I'm never going to let this go. Those are the people I really feel the deepest sadness for.
Yeah. And look, let's be honest with ourselves. I've said this in any number of sermons. Forgiveness is hard. It's not easy. You know, it's not easy to just say forgive. Well, first off, forgive and forget, two different things,
Yeah,
right? But it's not easy to forgive someone if you've been hurt and they are not apologetic, and there's no contrition on their part, there's no acknowledgement of their part in your being hurt. It is extremely difficult to forgive. It's not impossible.
yeah,
And let's if you want to go to a very extreme case, you look at the nickel mines case in Lancaster County a number of years ago, like the at least a great number of the Amish people who lost children from a man who just walked into their school and killed children's, they forgave him and forgave his family.
yeah.
And there was no hesitation on their part. It was just, this is what God tells us to do, and so we're going to do it. I have said many times before, I don't know if I could do that. and look, I'm honest about it. That would be really difficult for me to do. I would have to process some real challenging emotions to get to a point where I could forgive someone for that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not easy. Um, and so I get it from a certain perspective, but I think Michael just carries so much grudge, so much, anger that it's impossible for him to forgive,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It's definitely this kind of idea of it's kind of this idea of the that basically Michael's a good example of what where forgiveness takes you. Or sorry, the inability to forgive takes you alone.
Right.
Like you're if you can't find ways to forgive, at some point you're going to end up alone.
Well, and folks in my churches have heard me say this before too. Holding a grudge is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's not going to work out. It's just not going to work out. So, all right, I think we can kind of wind this down. This is friends, if you have not seen Godfather 2, first of all, the film is more than 50 years old. Where you been? Um, it's uh, it, there's a reason that people hold up, particularly Godfather 1 and 2, to be some of the best films ever made. There's solid reason for that. They are amazing films. They're a commitment. They're a chunk of time,
Yeah.
and in our TikTok real society, I know that's difficult.
Yeah.
But look, if you have not ever seen these films, they are
They're
worth your
powerful.
time.
Yes.
They
Yep.
they are absolutely worth your time. And understand, look, there's violence in these films. There's some language in these films. There's some sexual situations in these films, things that you may not want to see or talk about if you're a person of faith. I get that, but wade through that because the themes and the ideas and really, again, I like a film that makes you think,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and these films definitely make you think.
Yep.
So, all
Absolutely.
right. So let's talk about what we want to watch next week.
Well, we talked about trying to do movies about gratitude or generosity,
Mm-hmm.
month of November.
Oh yeah, right.
Kind of
You have
connect.
something in mind?
Well, I thought it would be easy. We could hit two low-hanging fruit. It's a movie about generosity and gratitude, and also it's around this time of year when people start watching it. It's a Wonderful Life. What do you think?
Sure. I love that movie.
Yeah,
It's look, when we talk about great American films
yeah,
like Godfather,
yes, yeah.
you put It's a Wonderful Life right up there with it because it is one of the and look, it's not a first off, if you have not seen It's a Wonderful Life by now,
Please do.
I don't even know you. Okay. But it's not like an over the top serious drama like Godfather.
Mhm.
But it really does like I don't want to watch it colorized. I've
Yeah.
seen it colorized. I don't want to watch it colorized because it's just almost a perfect film the way it's made.
And do you know the backstory around Jimmy Stewart and the movie?
No, fill me in.
Um, he was dealing with PTSD,
Okay.
and he was very difficult during the production. And Frank Capra, the director, used him falling apart in different scenes to add weight to the scene. So like there were a couple scenes where he was actually having an episode, and instead of yelling "cut," he allowed kind of the episode to take hold in the scene, and so it's a kind of a power. And supposedly to Jimmy Stewart, this movie helped him work through psychologically some of the things from World War II he was dealing with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I love this movie. So, if we want to review it again next week, I'll do that too. It's a great film. And folks, honestly, if you have not seen It's a Wonderful Life, this is a challenge. Please watch it this
Yeah.
week before we talk about it next
I
week,
believe it's
because
free on Disney if you have it.
I'm sure, yeah, it's probably free on Disney. Yeah. Um, if not, go out and buy a copy. I mean, I'm
It's
not
definitely
kidding.
worth seeing.
It is a film worth owning and watching every year at Christmas time, okay? It it really is. And this is a different angle for me. Like, I haven't talked about it in the light of gratitude and that sort of thing. So this would be a great way for us to look at it.
And it's actually set during Thanksgiving and not during Christmas. So
Well, look, if we're going to make the argument that any film set during Christmas is a Christmas movie,
try hard.
Die Hard. All right, I think we'll leave it right there. Thanks for watching. Keep on finding God in the dark. We'll see you all next week. Take care and God bless.
Bye.
Oh, hey, you made it all the way to the end of the video. Well, thanks for watching. We appreciate your support. And friends, if you find anything that's really wonderful or entertaining or helpful in your Christian walk, we want to encourage you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends. We publish every Friday morning at 10 a.m. And we hope that you continue to find these videos and these discussions entertaining and informative. Take care and God bless. Bye.